The first 9 films of my new channel were dedicated to ancient Egypt and the technologies of the ancient Egyptians, which, upon closer examination, turned out to be not so ancient. Firstly, because the ancient Egyptians spoke the same language as the Copts of the 19th century, with the only difference being that the Egyptians were pagans, while the Copts, relatively recently, in the 17th and 18th centuries, adopted Christianity and the Greek alphabet. Secondly, the Great Pyramids of Giza, the first wonder of the world, are not present on the map of Cairo from 1575, and instead, there are some pointed pyramids similar to those that still stand in the Upper Nile in modern-day Sudan. Thirdly, and perhaps this is the most striking evidence, ancient Egypt ended not long before the 19th century, when the paints on the temples were still quite bright, which means they were fresh. And finally, fourthly, as reported by the first Russian geography textbook, the Egyptian kingdom in the early 18th century still existed, and as a separate state monarchy, it paid tribute to the Turkish Sultan, another state to the Turkish Empire. So maybe, and the American pyramids are not as ancient as scientists think. It would seem. What doubts could there be here? Columbus brought Christianity to America, which means the pagan structures of the Mayan, Incan, and Aztec Indians must have been built before Columbus and the Europeans. However, the facts tell a completely different story of America. Let's start with one of the main myths of Latin America, the history of Mexico City, the Catholic capital of North America. Official reference, let it be the Britannica. You will find the same in Wikipedia. Tenochtitlan, the ancient capital of the Aztec Empire, located on the site of modern Mexico City, founded around 1325 on the swamps of Lake Texcoco. By the end of the 15th century, it was the capital of the Aztecs. The population in 1519 is estimated to be around 400,000 people, which is the largest concentration of population in the history of Mesoamerica. It was destroyed by Spanish conquistadors led by Hernán Cortés in 1521. Tenochtitlan, the city on the water, was often compared to Venice, another city on the water with many canals. Venice in the 16th century had the most powerful military and trade fleet in the Mediterranean Sea, over 3,000 ships. The Venetian Republic was a global factory for producing glassware, textiles, including silk and other manufactured goods. At the same time, the population of Venice in the 16th century was a maximum of 170,000 people, which is 3 times less than pre-Columbian Tenochtitlan, a city that it is unclear what it produced and how it was supplied with food and fuel. The fact that in pre-Columbian America there was no money, and therefore there were no commodity-money relations. Without money, metallic coins, a reliable intermediary between the city and the village, no peasant would bring food to the city. However, historians assure us of the opposite. In their ancient Egyptian cities, there was no money, and the exchange of rural goods for urban ones was carried out on a barter basis. How ancient Egypt and the Egyptian kingdom were, we already know. So, any reasoning posting that cities and urban markets could exist without money, this notion is a fairy tale for gullible adults. And now, regarding the destruction of Tenochtitlan by Cortés and the city's main temple, Templo Mayor, in 1521. In the publication of the famous German cartographer George Braun, Cities of the World, or literally, Cities of Earthly Circle. By the way, pay attention to the ancient Roman style of the title page design. Historians and art historians call this phenomenon the fashion for everything antique in the Renaissance era. Only it is not fashion. It is real classical antiquity, without any repetition in the Renaissance era, which will be discussed in more detail in the following films of this channel. So, in the 1575 edition of George Braun, not Tenochtitlan is depicted, but the city of Mexico, in the middle of which the pagan temple still stands, and there is no indication that these are in ruins. In the collection of engravings of the Duke August Library, an image of Templo Mayor is presented as the center of the future capital city of Mexico. Around the temple, a stone wall, on the outer side of which, relief or graphic images of snakes. Around the temple, wastelands and wilderness. In later images of the temple, the same snakes on its outer walls, but around the temple has already grown a city of European colonial development. This drawing is taken from the book Religious Ceremonies and Customs of All Peoples of the World by French writer and publisher Jean-Frédéric Bernard, published in 1735. So what did Cortés destroy in 1521? It is not clear, and even if he did destroy something, it was definitely not Templo Mayor, which in the first half of the 18th century was still the cultural and religious center of Mexico, which is also evidenced by its European name Templo Mayor, which translates from Spanish as main temple. What a respectful attitude, however, from the Christian Spaniards towards the pagan temple. Not long before its destruction, it grew to significant dimensions. Judging by the layout of its official reconstruction, it was clearly not destroyed in the early 16th century. Well, let's approach it from another angle. There is a concept in historical sociology called the Neolithic Revolution, which is characterized by a transition from a stage of hunting and gathering to a stage of agriculture, farming and animal husbandry, and as a consequence, a settled lifestyle. This stage of human development can also be called the village civilization, which preceded the urban civilization. But Tenochtitlan is not even a village Neolithic civilization, but a fully fledged urban one, quite developed with a high population density. However, the historians do not use the term Neolithic, a synonym for village civilization, to describe the cultures of the New World. Why? Because the classic definition of the developed Neolithic epoch implies the presence of iron tools, the so-called Iron Age, including those necessary for the construction of megalithic structures of indigenous peoples of pre-Columbian America. For example, stone dressing and the preparation of construction lime mortar. But the Maya, Aztec, and Incas are already South America, did not know iron tools, so their culture does not fall under the scientific definition of the Neolithic. Iron was never smelted by Native Americans. Thus, the New World never entered a proper Iron Age before European discovery, and the term is not used of the Americas. Historians here are clearly cheating and not telling us everything. And there, at the beginning of this article, to date, no one has found evidence that points to the use of melting, smelting, and casting in prehistoric Eastern North America. So we are supposed to believe without any evidence that the Mayan pyramids, located in the eastern part of North America, were built without metallurgy and iron tools. But then, explain how. However, historians do not even have theories on how Native Americans could achieve such perfection in the construction of megalithic structures using only sticks and stones. The reason why historians of the 17th and 18th centuries, when the modern version of history was being written, pushed the megalithic structures of the Maya and Aztecs back to the pre-Columbian period is simple and clear. The Catholic Church could not be involved in the construction of pagan temples and structures throughout Latin America. This would, to put it mildly, discredit the Church. That is why the pre-Columbian Tenochtitlan was invented, with an incredible population density for those times, so that with its help, with great stretches, one could explain and legitimize an entire network of supposedly pre-Columbian idol-worshipping megalithic temples of Native Americans, which did not fit into the idea of the Christian mission of the Roman Catholic Church in Latin America in the 16th century. In the next film, an answer will be given to the question of why the Catholic clergy and the Franciscans, the actual owners of the Yucatan in the 16th century, allowed the construction of, and even more so, helped build pagan temples for the Native Americans on their canonical territory. And especially for those who wish not only to know, but also to understand history and its cause and effect relationships, I offer you my book, The Other History of Roman Empire, 110,000 words and more than 300 pictures. You can find a link to the book and its table of contents at the bottom of the description for this film. That's all for me. I appreciate your time and attention, and I wish you all the best. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and let's stay connected. Respectfully, Alexander Tomansky.